Good evening and welcome. It's so exciting to be here this evening. My name is Paul Koska, if you don't know, and I run theaterinoregon.com. And tonight we're going to be interviewing Major Attaway. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring Major into the call. Let's deal with our technical stuff. Major.
Hello.
Hello. It is so good to see you.
Yeah, man. How long's it been? A decade?
Well, I came and saw the show 2017, I think.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So for those of you who don't know, I don't know how you couldn't, but this is Major Attaway. You may have seen him in Orange is the New Black or heard his voice in Borderlands 3 or One Piece. And of course, Major also spent over 3 years in the role of the genie in Aladdin, both on Broadway and in the national tour. So welcome, Major Attaway. It is so awesome to have you here.
Thank you, buddy.
Before we get going into the interview, I just want to talk for a moment about why we're here this evening, and that is to raise some money for relief efforts for the fires in Southern Oregon. Last week, fires devastated the area, especially in the towns of Phoenix and Talent. Thousands of residential structures were destroyed, as well as schools and businesses. And there are so many people out there right now who need our help. So please, as you are watching this, take a moment and click the links in the description of this video. And please make a donation to one of the funds there. Every dollar counts. And when you donate, let everybody else know in the comments here, because when they see that you have donated, that's going to inspire them to do the same. So let's come together in this time and let's lift up some folks who really need it. And if you've got some questions for Major, make sure to leave those in the comments, along with the good news of your donation. Okay, on to it now. Now, in a very not trite talk show kind of way, how are you? Because this year is absolutely like that's such a loaded question this year. It's not just like, oh, I'm great, because who is great? But you can even be great and still not be great. So how are you?
I am, well, and you're right. To start, thank you for asking and thank you for saying it that way. I've prefaced text messages with the same. I know this is a loaded question, so I'm just going to ask, are you present?
I like that.
Yeah, I said, I feel like that is simply enough currently. Would you get that for me? Yes. So, well, to be honest with you, let's say there was a time where I had to maybe mourn the loss of theater in my life. But then we've been in survival mode for so long now that there are days where you can't afford to look back, because you need to be ready for the long haul. So yeah, there are. I also tell my friends there are some days where the creativity flows, and then there are other days where I'm counting my ceiling tiles, and I have no ceiling tiles. So
yeah. I hear that. It's like the days are very long and the weeks are somehow very short, and the months just snap by somehow. Like time is distorted in this strange time. I mean, I say the word time a lot, but it's like days have no meaning anymore. And then all of a sudden it's September, and all of a sudden it's October, and it's like, what in the hell happened? Yes. Yeah, I mean, I have felt a lot the same, knowing that the industry that we're in kind of doesn't exist at the moment. And it will again, but it's like right now, it doesn't. And what does that mean? And we're going to get into that. I want to talk more about that later, about how,
sure.
our thoughts and where we move forward from here. But first, I just want to talk about you and let the people out there get to know you. So obviously we're going to talk about your experiences in Aladdin, but I would love to talk about where you started, how you just your development. So you were, I know you were raised in Texas. Were you also born in Texas?
Yes, born and raised, spent every year there up until the year I met you in Chicago. Other than that, my entire resume per se was in either Fort Worth or Dallas, Texas, or somewhere like that. Yeah.
And was your family like right off the bat very supportive, very artistic? Was that something you grew up with?
Well, I was a bit of the black sheep, but what I can say is that the spark was so started so early that the support came very naturally. And I think, yeah, even though there was a lot of a lot of learning to happen about what do I do with this, being able to what is this talent and what is it worth, because when you start, most of it is simply navigating other people's expectations. When you're young and you can sing, it's either challenged, say you can't sing, or sing for us. And then once you do, it's you should be the next, or now you know what you should do. You know,
Hmm.
so the only peace I found at 8 years old was while I was singing. So that was good enough for quite a long time, to be honest with you.
And do you remember what it was that started you? Like what it was that really lit that fire in the beginning? Was there an event or like a show or something in particular?
Um, I wouldn't say a particular event, but I would say I remember the first time singing in front of a crowd. I was in a canary yellow suit, and we were graduating from the fifth grade, our kindergarten. And I sang Boys to Men, um, tomorrow. It's so hard to say goodbye to yesterday. Excuse me. Yeah. So yeah, that was the first time. But I'm. Oh wait, no, I can't. Well, for theater, I can say seeing it on Broadway was the confirmation of being able to do it for a living,
Mm.
which changed it from I just want to be really good at this.
So what show was that and how old were you?
I believe I was 11, and it was The Lion King, and it was at the New Amsterdam Theater in the ninth row. And
Oh, are you kidding me?
yes, sir, I can point to the chair, and it's the same, obviously the same theater that I got to work in the last.
Hmm.
The
That's
amazing full circle moment, right?
that's some Disney magic, is what that is.
It-
Some trademark, copyrighted little T in the bottom, little R, Disney magic.
yeah,
Sell that in the gift shop. That's fantastic.
yeah.
So, so you had this support and had this, and then had the spark. Um, when you were going through, I work a lot with kids, and I have a lot of students, and some of them may be watching. I'm not sure, but as you were going through high school, uh, were you just doing shows in the school setting? Were you already doing shows outside of it at that point?
I love it. I love it. I love it. This is what I think got me to where everything that I've done. The School of Hard Knocks. By 9 years old, I was in rehearsals for theater for shows at Casa Manana. So I was from that age, I was working in a professional theater setting outside of school.
Hmm.
So I was doing both from that age through high school. So, and also in my middle school, I went to an applied learning academy. So that means that we were adopted by the local theater. So when I got cast in a school production, I got to do the show, do the daytime performances, and I didn't get counted absent, which
Mm.
because they recognized that I would get extra time in the building, because then I would be, when they double cast a show for the sake of kids needing to go to school, I didn't need to go to school, so I could be in both casts. So I got to learn what that was like to work with I was like the only child to not be double cast. And so I'm working with all of the adults over and over again. So I'm picking that up by the age of 10, 12. So yeah, I was already doing that. And then I moved to Jubilee Theater once I was in high school. So the whole time I was doing local theater and learning from people in the business.
Do you remember what those early shows were at Casa Manana?
Mhm. My first show was Babe, the Sheep Pig. I played Rustler. I'm very certain that I was not fully focused because of the simple joy of being on stage. I remember a friend of mine, Mary Michael Patterson, who we were Casa kids together. I got off stage and she told me, she said, "Major, you were supposed to be angry in that scene." I said, "What do you mean?" I was chasing Babe. She did things and we had to chase her. She said, "No, you were smiling and laughing as you were supposed to be chasing the pig." I said, "Okay, lesson learned." Um, I also did Frosty the Snowman back then, backstage or under the stage even. Oh, Tom Sawyer, that was directed by BJ Cleveland. Shout out to BJ. And yeah, and I think Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer as well.
Just all those winter classics.
Oh yeah,
Um,
it was a good time.
and I tell my students a lot that uh, you know, when you're in school, and obviously your first job is school, but if theater is a thing that you want to make your career out of, now is the time to just do like literally every show that you can possibly do, because you don't have to pay rent right now.
Yes,
So
yes, yes.
you can afford to take free work because you don't have bills to pay yet. So take the free work and pad your resume.
I got to pad mine because they didn't have to pay me, so they were happy to have me be the size of an adult at 13, and they're like, "Oh, and yeah, and he can be here all the time, and we don't have to pay him. Yeah, he's welcome. Come on, let
We'll just
him."
take advantage of each other.
That's
Just
right.
a
Yeah,
symbiotic relationship.
it worked
Um,
great for Big River as well. It was good. That was good. Yeah.
that's a good show. I like that one. We've got a question from here in the chat. Kristen Allerton, I'm asking this, I'm passing this on because I know that you just started something that will tie into this. She is a teacher in Portland who is teaching virtually and wants to know if you have ideas for resources and how to bring theater to life in a digital setting. And I know that, you know, we can talk about the cheap and free ways to do that too, but I know that you just started with a program with a company that can do things, correct?
Yes, yes, artists and beyond. I just signed up, and so I've actually just scheduled my very first, I guess, master class, if that's what you want to call it. It's surprising that my name is on that word, um, but yeah, next week. So I'll be jumping into that. But really, that I have only so much information because I have to still open my press packet, so tell everyone exactly what they need to know. But what I can tell you is it is coachings and teachings, and essentially you can either set up a private session for an hour, 2 hour, or even with two people on your side,
Mhm.
or you can do a masterclass moment for 1 or 2 hours where I can be there and answer whatever questions are available.
And this is perhaps for schools an even better resource than it is for more private organizations, because in a private organization or a nonprofit, usually your budget's like just nothing, just moths in a wallet. But schools, a lot of time they tell you at the beginning of the year, like, okay, you've got this much to work with, and if you've got an extra few $100 kicking around in your school budget, you can arrange a day to have Major Attaway, to have Laura Bell Bundy, like to have like really big stars come and talk to your students. And it's something that's been there, but I think especially in this year, that is something that has totally blown up.
Yeah, the climate has shifted, and so this is the best way to access us. And most of us now, our schedules are great for this. So we can reach a lot of people, reach a lot of the same people who may have taken a trip to see us do something. Yeah, so I think you're right. I think, and yes, let's do it.
Yeah, and I think for instructors, everybody who works in theater is currently not. So if you have somebody that you like, oh, I love that person, I would love for them to talk to my students, or I would love to do something, just send an email, because they're probably, a lot of people are probably just going, what the hell do I do today? And if they get an email saying, would you like to do this? I bet a lot of them would try to make that happen,
I think it's a lovely idea.
because it's better than doing nothing. Um,
Yeah, let's do nothing together, if anything.
We got Nicole Rayner. just donated to wildlife relief through Rogue Credit Union, and Rogue will be matching all donations up to $100,000. Thank you so much, Nicole,
Thank
for
you.
making that donation. They really need everything they can get down there. Okay, so let's talk about kind of the middle period. So we're transitioning through high school. We're
Yeah,
looking at more like regional theater and education beyond that. What were your steps before we get to Broadway, like
sure, sure.
this other period there?
Right after high school, I showed up at the Chicago College of Performing Arts, where we met each other, and you talked to me about Frankenstein.
Which I finished, I should say.
Um, and so I spent a year there, and there was, a lot of things I recognized about myself there, because of all the time that I spent, working on stage, backstage, under the stage, front of house. Um, it was hard for me to stay focused on recrafting the things that I was kind of forced to build through instinct. And so it kind of clashed. And so I ended up leaving the school after 1 year. Um, Went to massage therapy school so that I could make the ends meet, as well as, incorporate that into my schedule so that I could make any audition that I needed to. And I got to a point where when I wasn't working full time or part time in a massage therapy place, I would take my things to the place that I was doing a show that evening and work on the staff. And so that's how I incorporated all of that and built myself a nice little clientele base. But then I went right back into doing regional theater, but all just in DFW. So
That's
I,
Dallas Fort Worth for folks
sorry,
that.
Dallas Fort Worth,
No, it's
excuse
okay.
me. Dallas Fort Worth. Um, I want to say around 2012, I started to lean more into voiceover work. Well, I was always interested in it, but it was, it's a tight community and it's hard to get into.
It is.
Honestly, until I started to maximize my one superpower, which is networking, I wasn't aware of how close I was to some of the places that did it. And so when I started to do theater in Dallas, Texas, I started to work with people who also worked at Funimation.
Hmm.
And I just learned what it was, soaked it up, knew that I wanted to do something like that. And so I got on the audition list, got on the very, very long wait list to do Walla, which is background voices. So, to play the bad guy who gets kicked by the good guy. All you need is a oof, and I wanted to be the oof. Just let me in.
Give me that oof.
Right? Let me give me the. And so from there, I got in through doing Dallas theater. Some of those same people could vouch for me and move you up the list a little bit, when they're looking for specific things. And then from there, I learned about Okratron and started moving to there. Got to do like a Dragon Ball Z video game, which was, the highlight of the year for me. And then all that time, we're still doing local theater. And then I'm doing everything that has to do with this. I taught after school classes in theater, and where we created shows there, or created like vignettes and types of things. And then I even sang at a restaurant called Eatsy's, where I would go there and they would give me a chef's coat. And for 2 hours, we sing a cappella songs of our choosing, and then you go home, with $100 and a pizza, and it's like that's a great day. It was
$100 and a pizza. My last restaurant singing gig wasn't nearly that good. Jeez.
but
I gotta go find that one.
it was real nice. It was real nice. But anything that I could do that was to grow the opportunity to do it all the time. My goal was just let me make sure that I am efficient enough at being a storyteller so that they let me do it for a living, and then I can be then I can move from there. So it was very much tunnel vision, almost just for the opportunity. You know, there were so many factors, that sacrifices, if you will, that were cut away, and it's fine. You know, it's just that was the goal. So yeah, so that was through those years.
So I think some things, especially for, if we've got students who are watching, some things to take away from this, is that the path through education, through learning, through training is not necessarily the same way for everybody. There
Absolutely.
are plenty of people who graduate from their performing arts high school and then graduate from their conservatory and then go to Broadway, and that's their path. There are plenty of people who do that, and there are plenty of people who do not.
Right. For the best example is Courtney Reed. I was a
Mm-hmm.
freshman when Courtney Reed was a senior at the exact same school.
Yep.
She graduated, she did her thing, and we shared the stage together. We bowed right next to each other.
Right.
So, yeah, that's the way to put it.
And the thing is, having maybe you call it a setback, maybe you don't, but having a change in plans, like, oh, this school didn't work out, I need to now adjust, doesn't necessarily mean that the whole train derails. We can still be moving forward towards this goal that we have, even if it's in a more roundabout fashion.
Yes, and it was difficult. It was hard to, to accept. That was a very dark summer for me.
I can imagine. Now, I want to follow up, because anytime I mention my own voice work, that's, of all the things I get questions on from students and whatnot, that is the number one thing. Like, every time I talk to a high school, all of that, it's, how do I get into voice acting? How do I do that? How do I do that? And I'm like, I took a bunch of terrible jobs and got one video game out of it. I'm not the person to ask. But now I'm talking to the person who I can ask about this. So if you can tell, if you were talking to a high schooler who just absolutely like, oh my God, I want to be in voice acting, what would you recommend to them?
I would say try reverse engineering your success. To be more specific, what is it that made you want to get into voice acting? What piece or what show or what thing you love so much that you think you can do? And then look up who made that, right? Find out what everything that they've worked on and make all those connections. And then that is how you build your portfolio for yourself, because you can build it from you see the character work that they've done, and then you mold your thing that way. That's what I would say. Like, I would continue to get more into detail about that, but that would be the first answer, because you need to be specific, is what I like to say. You need to be absolutely incredibly specific, and that will work. That will help.
And I think a frustrating part of this for a lot of people is that for voice work in particular, it's not going to work unless you're in the city where they are, for the most part, when you're starting out, at least.
Yes. I would say yes when you're starting out, because you do need to develop a relationship with producers, engineers. You need to know how things work and where you are on the totem pole and what you need to be bringing to the table in sessions, and how much their time is worth. That is the only way. It's the absolute, you're right. It's the only way to get to a point where you're going to work in your pajamas, and you can do it from anywhere, but you have to be trusted, and that's $1 million money trusted.
Yeah. There, you can build a really fabulous home studio for not a super amount of money, but no one's going to hire you for that, for really big projects, until they already know your work and they already trust that you can put out a good product on your own. So yeah, you're just going to have to move to a metro, especially like LA. LA is the big one where voice work happens, but every metro is going to have studios.
Well, I would say there's a lot here, and there was, enough to get you going in Dallas, Texas, and that's been growing ever since. To be honest, they're doing a lot of stuff
now. And I'm really excited to play. I've played the first two Borderlands, so I'm really excited to play the third one, so I can hear your character. How was it to hear yourself in it?
Let's see, it is the second part of two things that have really been amazing. The first one I got to experience with the first game I did with Gearbox, which is Battleborn.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like the narrator of the game, essentially. You know, like I talked you through the tutorial. In this, I'm an NPC with the potential to come back, and
Mm-hmm.
he has so much character, and and he's the closest thing to Texan I've ever played. And so it was just delightful. You know, it's exhilarating, and it is inspiring to keep me focused for the long haul. You know, I would love to have a character that sticks around for a few games, you know, as long as the Borderlands lives. So we'll see.
For the big game that I was in, I didn't actually love playing the game, so I played it just enough to make it to where I was in the game. Then I was like, great, I'm done.
No, I did that too. I'll be honest with you. I did that too, but it was because I got frustrated because I feel like I was pretty good in Halo, but since then the first person shooter has just, you know, they kind of diluted me. So yeah, I did that and I put it down for a while, but just this past maybe 2 weeks, I picked it back up, and I'm on my third playthrough now. So
Oh, nice.
yeah, and
You've got character art there for Clay.
Oh, yes, this is my character in Borderlands 3. This is Clay.
That's awesome. Who made you the art?
Oh, you know what? I have her Instagram. I'm gonna add it in the comments.
Okay, sounds good.
Say it incorrectly.
Sounds good.
But it's Jamie. Yeah.
So let's we've kind of talked about your journey up to this point. So how did you make the jump from regional theater and regional work in DFW to now you have the attention of somebody in New York?
I was cast in Hands on a Hard Body, which is a Broadway musical.
What an underrated show that is.
Oh, tell me about it. Well, of course, it changed my life. I may be a little biased, but outside of that, it's full of heart, you know, to be honest. Great.
It's got the dumbest premise. It's got great songs. It's got a truck. I mean,
Did you know it was based off of the real competition? Yeah. So the way the love I have.
Did you have a truck?
Oh, yes, we did. So our theater was I want to say kind of thrust, but also in the round. So 4 sections, but thrust out. We put a truck in the middle of that, a Nissan hardbody truck. And the the premise of the show is whoever keeps their hand on the truck the longest wins the truck. They get to drive it home. So I was in that show, and that show was written by, the book was written by, I'm thinking of the music, Trey Anastasio and Doug Wright did the book.
Did Doug Wright really do the book for that?
Yes, he did. And how about he's also from East Texas?
Is he really?
Yes. Or from Texas. Sorry, yeah. I don't know East Texas. But the theater that we did the show at, which is Theater 3 in Dallas, was the theater that he grew up doing work at. And so it was his home theater, right? And we were doing the Southwest regional premiere. And so he came to see it, and even brought a couple of the actual people from the show, from the film. So that was delightful to meet them. So I did not know that he also wrote the book for Little Mermaid for Disney, for Broadway. So he, in a casual conversation after the show's over, he said, "Major, I like what you did out there. What would you like to do?"
Oh, geez.
Don't ask for it, kids.
what a casual conversation with I believe he's won a Pulitzer Prize, Doug Wright.
Yes. Yeah. Pulitzer and a Tony. Yes.
Yeah.
I said, well, I want to play the genie in Aladdin on Broadway. And he said, you'd be great. He said, did you know that James, who was supposed to play the role you're playing now in the Broadway show, Ronald McCowan, chose to play the genie instead? And
And that's James Monroe Iglehart for
correct.
those.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
No, you're fine.
Tony winner James Monroe Iglehart, the originator of the genie role on Broadway. He was supposed to play that role in the other show, but took a night instead. So I said, there's no coincidence there. I even made a Facebook post that still exists, and I reposted when it floats back up. I am wearing a Dallas Cowboys jersey, and I'm hugging the truck, and I am declaring my time on the Broadway stage. And I say, tell James I'm coming to join him. Who knew that I would end up replacing him, which blows me away. But here's what happens. So after that conversation, we go our separate ways. And then a month later, I get an email from him, from Doug. Hey, Major, just want to let you know I had lunch with my friend yesterday, Tom, and I dropped your name about Aladdin. Who knows if it will ever be thought of again, but I just want to let you know, just in case, don't be surprised. Great. Tom Schumacher, Disney theatricals. And I you don't understand the gravity of an email like that at the time. So 2 months after that, I get a letter from the casting company and with a packet that says, learn this. We have yet to announce audition dates, but here you go. So I learn it, and then they announce audition dates for September 23rd, 2015. And I say, because I have a gig that is my greatest gig of the year, regularly, I say I can't do it. And they said, well, the director and Tom Schumacher and Casey and Tom are going to be in the same room. You should come. Okay. So I give away the gig. They fly me up and I see the show. And then the next day we spend all day auditioning. And the first time I go in and they say, great, do that again later. We dance well. And then we do it again for the entire group. So we have the entire Disney team. And I'm doing the thing and they're laughing. And I'm like, this is good because they wrote it. And so that evening I get a phone call. It says, so how would you like to join the cast of Aladdin?
That evening.
It was that casual. Yes. It was that casual in the conversation. And so after that, I left town. That was September 23rd, 2015. I left town on October 11th to go get in shape for the work. And then in January, I moved to New York, January 6th, started rehearsals January 12th, and made my Broadway debut as the standby for the Genie, Babcock, and the Sultan. I did my first performance on March 20th, 2016 as the Genie. It's so magical because James gave me a day. Like when I say gave me a day, it means he had something to do.
Mm-hmm.
But, so I got to do my job. But the idea that I knew the first day that I would get to do my job is contradictory to the definition of my job, which is a standby. So it was the greatest gift I could receive from him, to, with all the pressure and all the different things and all the excitement and all the adrenaline to manage with this all happening within, like 5 months of me, living in Fort Worth, Texas. And now I am living in New York and about to have to uphold this Broadway show real quick, casual. It was a fantastic thing that he could give me a heads up for the very first time so that I can understand and remember it even slightly.
And be in any way prepared. That's yeah. How, be honest, how intimidating was it when you were watching the show for the first time to see Casey Nichola's crazy, athletic, all that choreography?
Here's what I should say. I will be honest. James was not the first Genie I saw. So it was not as intimidating as I expected it to be. Right? And mind you, it's because I probably still didn't understand the weight of what was going on. The fact that I'm standing back here with 6 other guys who look a little bit like me, and we're all here and we have to stand because there is only standing room, and we're here to join these guys. So, it was, I don't even know if I could pick that energy out from the moment. But the first genie I saw was the understudy, which at the time was a gentleman who was not the same size as the standby.
Mm.
So I got to see someone who looked more than me like he could keep up with what was happening at the time. So that kind of distracted me a bit from it, to be honest.
That's fair, because friend like me is such a scary number to
Yeah.
watch as a performer, especially as like not a dancer. To watch, like, oh, that's awesome, they cast a big guy in this big role. Oh my god, he's moving a million miles an hour and dancing, running up and down steps. The night I saw it, your mic went out halfway through that number, and someone had to hand you a microphone. Where that came from, I don't know. But seeing that number is incredible. Just the absolute athleticism of that moment in the show is insane. I was so blown away. Um,
Yes.
we've got a couple of questions here from the chat. Um, Kind of going back to the right now. Robert asks, um, what are you doing at the moment to both fill your time and support yourself now that the traditional avenues have closed?
Well, fill my time. Let's see. Kind of a little bit of both. Well, first you let it wash over you, essentially.
Yeah.
Um, you do what you do. There are things you need to do, and there are things you have to do, and there are things you can do. And so I just kind of try and balance those out a little bit. Um, to support, I would say there's opportunity there. There's a lot of positivity in that because you get to recalibrate. Like the recalibration is a gift, I would say. The struggle and the agreeing to do the work can be very difficult, or even enduring what you need to be able to get there. But I would say that at the end of that tunnel, the recalibration is truly a gift because I get to use everything that I've already learned and the energy that I've got to get from being on stage, and then pour that into to the voiceover work, and then recreating all of those things. So really, so I guess that's kind of the end.
Yeah. And I guess if there's a silver lining, it's that you got to leave the show on your own terms
Correct.
because you were not with the show when Broadway closed, and you in fact did another show uh, over at the City Center right after that.
Yes, Mac and
Um, how was the experience of doing that show? Because that's such a going from like, oh, I'm in this show for 3 years to, oh, I'm in the show for 3 nights.
Well, the best part about it was the transition. It was to stop a show directly after 3 years. I didn't know that I could handle that. Or when, yeah. So the to be able to go right into another rehearsal, like there was a week of complete insanity, or about 2 weeks, where you're rehearsing one and then granting wishes at night.
Hmm.
That's amazing. And I said I asked for that, and it was just as exhilarating as I thought it would be. Um, but to move into that, I think really helped that, and because the role that I didn't have the same amount of work to do, so I was going from being the front man to being in an ensemble. Like the scenes I was in was were about the ensemble of actors. And so that was very peaceful. And the energy that comes with doing that. Oh, and also it's summer stock energy. Yeah. So that was something that I'm very comfortable with, right? The last show I did before Aladdin was Les Mis that we put up in 17 days, in Fort Worth. So when I come in and they're like, we don't have this, I'm like, okay, we don't have that, great. We do have that, fine. Does this work yet? Is this paint? Sure, whatever. Yeah, or we won't have this until the first audience. Great, even better. My imagination is gonna be amazing for this until we have it. So it was really fun. And I honestly, that was a show that I could do much longer than that. And I didn't know how much I would love the show. I was familiar with other pieces that he's done, but to tell like a dark story with the brightest music possible, I love that.
And for those who are that's Mac and Mabel, which Jerry Herman, who passed away this last year, that's one of his lesser known works. It never quite clicked on Broadway, as opposed to La Cage aux Folles and some of his other well-known pieces.
Right, and they didn't. They thought that it was a desperate cry to reinvent the Hello Dolly energy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, look what happened to Mabel. Got a lot of flack for that, I guess you would say.
Which is what a great number that is. Absolutely, the music in that show is really, really so catchy and very striking. It's just so much power behind that music. We've got a question from John, and I'm pretty sure you've done one of these roles too. He would like to talk about the relationship between puppeteers and performers, and I'm pretty sure you, like me, have played the guy behind the plant.
Yes, feed me. Yeah.
How long ago was that for you?
I done it? It's been 3 times. 2
Mm-hmm.
times. Once in high school. That was probably the most challenging because I remember I was also on the soundboard as well, so I was over more than just my sound. So that was a lot of fun. And then twice in regional theater. Maybe the last time, maybe 2012, possibly.
I'm imagining you walking into regional theaters and directors going, "Shit, are we doing Little Shop this year? Can we put that on the schedule real quick?"
There's a handful of shows where I could trigger that reaction. Yeah, right. Yeah.
So have you when you've had those parts where you've been working with puppeteers, how has that relationship been for you? Were you working closely with whoever was doing the puppeteering? Were you working kind of in conjunction to make sure things were running smoothly?
Yes, I absolutely loved it. And that was, that's your best buddy in those shows. Especially with Little Shop, I was happy to, because every plant has different mechanics. And based on the user of the plant, one person was younger, but high stamina, so he'd probably do something that may be a little uncomfortable, but still have to encourage him to be good to himself. And then you have another person who, the other guy knew exactly what he was doing. And so he guided me as much as I guided him. And so we worked well together. And I would really enjoy crafting that because, I would work on riffs or change the things that I was doing in the song based on what some of their strengths. So that was a beautiful synergy of being able to create something with them. Because, I could just do whatever I felt like, but why would I want to do that when I want to serve the moment? I want to make sure that he looks as good, so we look good together. So yeah, definitely. Yeah. Then I've always wanted to do Avenue Q so that I could do that kind of work myself.
I got to do that one, and I was an understudy, and I loved it, but it was also a little terrifying because they had a really long run like almost like 2.5 months, just in a regional theater, and uh, I wasn't needed like the whole time. And so I went off and did other shows. Like, I was in the town, so obviously I could be there if need be. But they went through the whole 2.5 month run, and I did like 4 other shows during that time I was working on. And then the week before they closed, they were like, "He's getting sick. You got to come in." And I was like, "I've done 4 other shows since you guys opened.
Don't do this. Don't do this.
No, I haven't looked at a puppet since this opened. Uh, we did it, but man, that was uh, it worked out. But yeah, um, let's before we transition into more serious topics here at the end. A two-part question. One, was there anything about performing on Broadway that was like totally different than your expectation for that? Um, and the second part of that is what were some of your favorite moments of your run granting wishes?
I would say maybe something surprising was the, the stakes. You know, the only way I could normalize the work was to remove the pedestal, and then you get there, and then there's more work to be done. You know, like the essentially on a wider scope, you know, the work is still the same, but the attention to detail, the fact that I didn't know my job existed until I had my job. Because in my local theater, if I got sick, I did the show sick. You know, because there wasn't someone to do it. Um, so that I would say that was the glitter, you know, that was the icing. That was the this is why you flew from Japan to come to see, like, even though there's a version of our show in Japan, this is why you came to see ours, you know, because it's the only way you can get it here. Favorite moments, man. I mean, they're without exaggeration, they are countless, to be honest with you. Some of them, I probably learned more at the stage door than I did on stage. I would say just about the energy. Like I remembered waiting at that stage door to speak to someone, and I also remember never remembering what I said to them. You know, so I that part of the journey was very important to me because I used to stick around whatever theater I was doing, especially if it was a kid's show. Like I remember, I loved signing autographs as Frosty the Snowman. That was everything to me, right? Susical was just as great, but to speak to the people there, where that, especially with the character I'm playing, you know, the heightened energy there. I am I'm tapping into people's nostalgia in a way that is so powerful. And I remember I had one lady tell me that she couldn't watch the film since Robert Williams had passed. And so I had reminded her that that to go back and love the film again. I said, that's a beautiful thing. Other favorite moments, like, let's see, really when you get to go places that are, you do the hard work, and then you get to go to some place where you have to put on a tie and things. um I will be honest, I did enjoy geeking out when people that I didn't know knew who I was, just by association, knew my name when I met them. I i fangirled a little bit when Norm Lewis called my name in a room.
Ooh,
Right? I said,
yeah.
what is happening? I said, am I the only major here? Because maybe he's not talking to me. So yeah, that's really cool. But really, okay, and the third thing, there's like this download of information, like in doing the work. What I mean is, I learn what I'm supposed to learn, right? And we're doing this show eight times a week. but I get to choose how much more knowledge I bring home from my surroundings. I get to choose how I treat people in the building, and how I take the energy of the fact that our bosses work upstairs, or that there are, that no one really, the dressers don't get enough respect. It's just as a general thought process. Um, it's just the experience overall, knowing that I got to be at the front and leading that charge, and that I was trusted with that. Like, I can I can pinpoint moments that were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I made it through that. And then I can pinpoint moments that I can't believe I got to do that. So it's a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I think a good kernel in there for like students is there is a certain amount of ego and self-respect that you need to be successful in this. You need to stick up for yourself. You need to be all that. But the most talented, the most accomplished people I've met in the industry, without fail, are always the nicest people as well. I've met very few very accomplished people who were very mean or had bad attitudes.
Correct. And I think some people can misconstrue sometimes, like, efficiency with being mean. And I've seen, that whole line. I've seen some people trip over it. I've seen some people on it. But yeah, I think you're very right. I think um, at the end of the day, it's really, that really matters. It really does, because it's not as big a community as you think it is. Children,
it's way smaller than you could possibly imagine.
I'm telling you, it is. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about what's going on now. Obviously, I mean, she's 2020. Good God. But every industry has changed, and ours has probably changed more than any.
Yeah.
In February, we were gearing up for a brief shutdown, and now hopefully we can come back next year.
Right.
And even when we do, the structure is going to change. The audience numbers are going to change. All these things are going to be different. And then on top of that, the movements that have happened in this country, especially the Black Lives Matter movement, has changed the whole conversation. And that has absolutely changed how a lot of theaters are looking at things, as it should. So especially as a Black performer, how do you see the next steps for theater from here? When theaters reopen, it's going to be in such a different climate, not only for audiences, but for performers, and honestly, especially for performers of color.
Yeah. That's a lot.
I know it was a lot.
That's all right. Let's see. We'll start with, my first thought is that I don't know that we all want the same thing when it comes to what we want to return to, what we expect to return to, which will affect all of the decisions made, right? I'm not sure where to start in that. Let me think.
So what do you want to return to?
Well, for my own mental health, to be honest with you, I've had to take some time to not worry about it. What I need when it comes to what it is coming back to, because I wanted time to evaluate who I am because of what it has been, And for me, I had spent so much time, growing accustomed to what was going to be in my book, and growing accustomed to what stories that I would be telling, that what I've experienced was a bit of hesitation based on the realization of my own power, I guess. And that power simply being to tell people how I'm going to be treated. And so to sit with that for a while, I had to unpack the idea that I even had, remorse or weight for that thought process in itself. I was like, why would I need to second guess deciding how I want to live? Because never given myself the chance to think that way. So honestly, I've kind of paused there for a while when it comes to um I suppose saying I think this will be the best change.
Hmm.
I am because I don't know, a part of me is still struggling with what we want to learn as opposed to what we need to learn when it comes to how we treat each other. Because education is the key, but what are we educating each other on when it comes to to that? So I find myself deep into rabbit holes right now when it comes to that. And maybe I need to speak to some more people, but at the time it's more of that is also a safety measure because of not knowing when I will have when it will shift, right? So I used to be in the mindset of whatever project I was working on. And because that is now something that I'm getting to recalibrate, what I really am trying to focus on is that as opposed to the new things. And really I was like that's really just been how I've made it through, to be honest.
I mean, the bottom line is we got to get through this year. We got to get through this period with our mental health intact.
Right. And so
Um,
when I try and dabble into let's fix other things, it's like you can stay here for a while.
yeah,
Because you need to and
yeah,
you deserve to. And so that is my honest answer, is that I
yeah,
have to steer a little clear from it because it kind of snowballs for me. And
yeah.
so
And
so
honestly, maybe that question was a little unfair because um, maybe there is too much pressure on performers of color right now to have the answers and to be fonts of information for people who are trying to seek. And
I politely disagree, but I understand that. But what I will say is I there is no pressure. And so I think my response is I guess that's the way I responded, is that where I stopped at was realizing that I had felt any pressure. And I was like, let's just start there and let that go, you
yeah,
know? So,
yeah,
yeah. So if any, so that doesn't have to be anyone else's response. I said,
right.
I could never possess the capacity or time to say this is someone else's fault necessarily. It's like, so that's how, yeah, I appreciate that, but I is different for me for that.
And that totally makes sense. I've been asking a lot of people about this because my experience is not someone else's. I'm a white guy who's a director, who's an actor, and I move through the world differently than someone else who's got a different background, a different skin color. We're going to have different experiences, and I want to make sure that I'm coming back to the industry in a way that's mindful and that's not just repeating things that are harmful, or I don't want to be causing harm or even just annoyance of people who've had plenty of it through this whole time.
Right.
Um,
I think that is for every single person, no matter where you stand on anything and how you look or smell. That's an inner thing, right? Like that intent is the beginning of everything. Like that's why I have no issue answering the question. I may have issues articulating it, but the truth is that's where I have to start for me. And so I don't know where people have enough time and energy to not only say this is how
that's
you
true.
living, but I know because I'm like, I don't know how I should be living yet because I haven't even asked myself.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I feel you on that as well because I think the amount of at the base of it, really the amount of energy and time spent towards figuring out our divisiveness is time gone. It's time lost. So yeah, I'm
Yeah.
here. I'm here. I feel you.
I, I hope that theater administrators spend half the amount of time stressing about these issues as actors do.
Yeah,
Like if they spend half the amount of time that the actors do, then maybe we'll get somewhere.
Right. It's about the dollar. What does it even matter? Just tell
Right.
stories.
Okay. Before we wrap things up, directly to students, if you could give some advice to like a 13-year-old whose dream is to be on Broadway, like that's where they are right now, that they know where they want to be, what do you tell that person?
Okay. I would tell you, this is encouragement. Hear that first. The disclaimer, in case you need the disclaimer. Broadway is the name of a street. There's a lot that goes with it, and there's a lot of things that will make it the best experience of your life. But for you to make it there, to see yourself there, you need to know that if it is not a street that you can walk on like a street you've walked on before, that's where you need to start. Right there. That's what I'd say. You're going to be in a room. You'll get the other cliche stuff. You'll always be in a room where there are people as talented as you are. They can do what you can do, and they can do it in 8 bars. So know that first. Remove that pedestal so that you can see yourself doing the same work you do right there. And that's my cat saying yes, right on.
And tell me what you think of this, because this is what I tell a lot of my students, is that there are people, talent-wise, there are people in pretty much every town, every city around that have the base amount of talent to be on Broadway.
Yes.
Hi, Kitty. And obviously connections are a huge difference, and that's a big change maker, but it's also just the dedication, just the willingness to be there.
Yes.
It's the people who spend years and years living in New York and putting in the time, and a lot of those people with enough talent do eventually make it on, but it requires a huge amount of sacrifice. It's not necessarily about talent. Because I've listened to a lot of Broadway recordings. It's not always about talent. There's some weird voices
that are beloved, that are household names that people will pay to see just because they are there, right? Yeah,
and they're not the best singers, and they may not be the best dancers, but that's not always, it's not always about who's the best singer and best dancer, because there's best singers and best dancers everywhere.
Yes, I agree.
Zero Mostel was on Broadway forever, and he couldn't sing pretty much a single note. Ever. So before we wrap up, I just want to encourage everybody who's watching. First, thank you for watching and for being here with us, whether you're watching live or later on. And also, please do take a moment, look in the description. Please donate to these funds that are helping the fire relief in Southern Oregon, because it's a huge loss down there, and they really need your help. So I want to thank you so much, Major, for taking the time and for joining me this evening. You can find Major. You want to plug anything, your social media, things like that?
Of course. I'm at Major Attaway on all the things. It's going to be the same, Major Attaway, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. That's it.
And if you want to support Major directly, if you're like, you know what, I got to give Major some money in his pocket, you can find Major on Cameo. You can find Major on Artists and Beyond. Major, will you sing, if they pay you on Cameo, do you sing Happy Birthday or just say it?
Oh no, I'll sing Happy Birthday. And I'm actually a fan of rewriting the lyrics to whatever your favorite Disney song is.
Oh man.
Like, give me a challenge, tell me that, give me a premise, and then give me your favorite Disney song, and I'll see what I can
do. Go find Major on Cameo, and he will sing for you for your birthday. Are you kidding me? That is so worth anything.
Yeah. If you get an A on a test, you deserve a song.
Tell me that's not worth the money. Go pay this man to sing to you, because I have heard him sing live quite a few times now, and I got some, occasionally got to do it for free. Well, no, I guess I paid a lot of money to go to school, so that wasn't necessarily free. But Cameo is a lot cheaper than going to a conservatory to hear Major sing. So log on and find him there. Oh
Yes,
man, I'm gonna be paying for that forever. I should have just done Cameo. I should have just looked you up there.
that's it. That's
It'd have
it.
been a lot cheaper. Um, thanks so much, Major. It's so awesome to talk to you. We'll have to do this again soon.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Paul. Thank you very much. And please give. They need it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Major. Everybody have a good night.